Thanks, Jeffrey. So this gives a good overview. I will just explain it just from our point of view. We did when we developed the VLG workflow, we have this approach that the final image processing engine, which is used in final grading, we wanted to port that into the different stages of production, and with PreLight really starting directly at the camera, so you can use the tools you will use later in final grading directly on set, and you can basically close the loop from on-set visualization to post in real time, because you can be sure that what you can achieve on set can be also achieved later in post-production by using exactly those tools. And we also developed the VLG file, and the VLG file is basically that thing that carries the color decision, and it also carries the camera metadata and the time code, so that we can later find the right VLG file for the right media. And this is what we're trying to improve here, because this is always a second track. You always have a sidecar file which you need to manage separately, and this additional conforming process of the VLG files, which is really not, once you have the VLG files, it's an automated process. But for fast turnaround workflows and for basically for various workflows, it would be really nice if we could communicate with the camera, and the camera inserts the VLG file with the camera access protocol directly into the camera files. And this allows that automatically the look and the media file is basically linked together, and it can travel around the post-production, and there's basically no further management required. And this is what we're also going to show today. So what we're having here set up, this is a very, very simple setup. We have PreLight on my laptop here, and this is connected via network to the camera, and there is basically no other connection between the camera and PreLight. It's literally just a network cable, or it could be wireless if we would trust wireless on a convention, but we didn't. So, so that's why we use a network cable. But speaking with the camera access protocol, we can, when we create a look, and when we basically do the color grading, we do two things. We first satisfy the classical RLF2 look file. We are sending we call this an approximation lot of the grade to the camera, so the camera can apply the intended grade directly on all the monitor outputs in real time, but we are also sending the metadata with it, and the camera will store both the lookup table, which represents the grade, and the VLG inside of the raw files. And then we will record a few shots, and then what we're going to do is we without any further metadata transfer, we will insert those clips which we will record here into PreLight, and see how hopefully not only the media gets online, but also all the grading decisions will be available with no additional extra overhead. And because it's a VLG file, we are not restricted to CDL and 3D lookup tables. And in a 3D lookup table, you can store a per pixel color correction. You cannot store advanced texture tools, or you cannot store shape-based color grading, or key and blur-based color grading. All the typical heavy secondaries cannot be represented with a lookup table, but they can be authored on set with PreLight, and these additional information, even if the camera cannot visualize them there, can travel all the way to post with no additional cost So this means we have a full high-end color grading in on set with PreLight, and there's no overhead in post-production. You can just insert the media, and it will be with the grade. So you have the intended look, you maintain the intended look, and because we never bake that into the files, you will always have the full precision of what the image sensor has captured. Okay, enough talking. Let's switch to PreLight. So here we are in PreLight, and again, I have no video connection with the camera. What I can do first to make just my image nicer, I can request from the camera are a raw file. So if you would all say hello to the camera, I will press grab, and now what the camera is sending basically is an image, and this we can use if we are not directly connected via live output. You will see the live output over here, maybe not all of you see that, but you should see, and of course we have a projection here and a broadcast monitor here, so please don't be so hard on us when you're saying that the image doesn't look exactly the same. Yeah. So now let's have a look on the camera. So because cameras nowadays are also web servers, we can basically control the cameras completely here. Maybe Geoffrey, you want to say about how we set up the camera here?
Okay. So normally what you do would be, the first degree of white balance, adjust what we already did, so this should work correctly. So the next thing is that we set up the look menu. So when we go in configuration, we say, okay, what we want to see on our recorded images, we want to record logs. This is important that it's always on logs. But on the viewfinder or the SDI out, we say we want to apply the look. So every information what we get from the PreLight will be applied automatically on these outputs. So the setup is now what you can't see is the viewfinder, but you can see the SDI output 1. There is a loft, and the look is applied. So when Daniele is changing something, it's great. Then we will see that. That's normally the workflow that uses in the DOP, the director, and they writing out what kind of.
Back in PreLight, we have configured a channel. I call this channel Mini, because it's a Mini. And here basically I have connected via IP to the camera. So I gave a password so that not the other production next door can upload looks which we don't like. And the only thing I need to make sure is that the output color space matches the setting inside of the camera. So we have Rec 186, 2.4 gamma, Rec 709. This is the classical video standard. And now what we can do is we can basically start doing a grade. So I already done something here, and I'm changing this here now, and I'm seeing the result on the monitor live.
I'll try. Okay.
Doesn't it?
No.
Okay, so we put it back to +2. We have not enough light here. I have a few. Yeah, CD. Do you have a question?
Just say me.
Okay, yeah, no, it's you're not winking all the time. It's a still frame. And we're not having enough light, so I need in the first layer to actually push the camera by 2 stops because we don't have a proper lighting here. We are manufacturers and not craftspeople. And what you also see is that maybe if you look careful, what we also had is a vignette. You can see a vignette because on my second layer, what I've done is I've added basically a shape, and this shape basically masks a color correction because maybe the director says, okay, this shot we really want to concentrate on the center, let's put a shape in there. And what you also can see is that this shape layer here on the left side here has this orange, it should be golden, it's a nice sparkling golden, basically a yellow-orange border around that. And that means is that this layer will not be contained in the approximation LUT we are sending to the camera. So that the LUT that the camera applies will not contain this layer because a 3D LUT cannot represent that. And then in the third layer, I have done a few other grades, another base grade here. I added a film grade, reduced the exposure, another video grade, and I've done even some U-shifts in the saturation. And what we want to do is we want to give it a meaningful name, like Westgate V7. You see, we already practiced this 6 times. Demo V1. And now what we also see when we go to the camera now, the name is too long now, but what you should see is that, what you see is that basically the camera has detected that name, and it indicates that there's a successful communication between PreLight and the camera, and it understood the update.
So what happens is, you send these names, great information about video to the camera, also the name. So when you get later on the clips, you know exactly from the name which was applied.
Oh.
Any notes about order of operations as well?
The order of operations are stored in. Oh, sorry.
In the look file, it's always log C from the image, and then CDL, and then the 3D log. It's always the same order. This is fixed.
Yeah, but in this workflow, we don't use the CDL because what we are doing, we do all the operations in our engine, and then we compose one LUT, which goes from log C to rec 79. So in this workflow, we don't use the CDL.
You're sandwiching.
I'm sandwiching everything
You're
together.
sandwiching the CDL values.
Yeah, I have not used the CDL. I have basically used our grading operators like base grade or film grade, video grade, U-shift, curve grade, everything you can do on the full baseline. So we're not limited to CDL in this workflow. You can do whatever you can do on a full baseline. You can key highlights, you can do secondaries, whatever is representable by.
But the shape will not be.
Exactly, the shape is.
But it would be in the BLG when you guys incorporate it. Right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
So maybe sure for the look files, they're in the progress clips. You will find those two looks. There's a look which is only the 3D log, what you're starting with, what you get from the grader, which you want to use for your on-set grading, and the CDL. And then there's a second look with a combination of both. So it depends always on the workflow that you want have a combination, because maybe you do dailies, or you can have the 3D log and the CDL information separate. It depends on the workflow.
But we are using the second workflow. We don't use CDL.
This is an advanced workflow, so we don't need that.
Exactly. Because PreLight in real time sends the LUTs to the camera and the BLG. So now if we record that, and you can again bring it to the camera if you like or not. So I press record and the camera records a short clip. Perfect. And so now on that CF card we basically have the file and the grade. So now let's do a second one. Maybe we make it a little bit simpler. I remove the layer 2 and make a new one, maybe a little bit shorter. Or just demo. Me too. And again, the camera, if you look here, has now understood what we've done. And now when we record again, a second clip. You're very welcome to act in front of the camera. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we go from PreLight, and I will do, you hold the camera, so that again throwing it down.
So now we are after shooting now, and now 1 day later, for instance, we're in post-production, we're getting the files, and now we open the first time in FilmLight or Daylight or all the tools we're using, and open the clips, the original clips in baseline.
Ah, dramatic. Okay. Yeah.
Post-production people feel more.
So now we have these two clips, and I could do an EDL conform, and now I'm just throwing it into the timeline. I double click on them, and now this is the really important message. It asks me, oh, there is embedded BLG metadata. Do you want to apply those while inserting the media into the timeline? And we say yes for all. Oh, we do it twice. And now what we're having is basically the media which we have recorded, but what you can see is that we have all of the grading information inside of BaseLight, and we can basically start with the grade. And it's not a lot which you can decide to apply or to not apply, but we have basically all the shape information which I can then start in BaseLight or Daylight or any other to modify. I can see exactly how this is the U-shift where we have desaturated the yellows. Maybe this was a little bit too much. I can go into the video grade, film grade, base grade. Basically everything you have done in PreLight is editable later on. Or you can even decide, okay, scratch that. That was a nice try, but I'm doing it again. But at least I know exactly how the image looks like. And when I want to produce, for example, an HDR version, then it's as simple as just changing my output color space to, let's say, Rec 2020. And of course, we don't have a monitor that can show this or projector. But now this look, because it doesn't compromise the dynamic range, just outputs to PQ. So it's really display color space agnostic and completely open until the end. And we hope that with this we can really help you in fast turnaround workflows to build robust pipelines by using FilmLight and ARRI technology. Any questions about this? So maybe we turn on the lights. Oh, a few. Good. Very good. Yep.
When can we actually see this in the real world?
This is a really good question. So PreLight today already sends the data to the camera. So that part already is hiddenly shipped in PreLight. So you would update to 5.1 to the latest version, and then the communication works. The second part, which then the deconstruction, you see it's written, it needs to be basically going through QC and merged, and I don't have a schedule for that, but we're showing this here, so we have a lot of pressure of shipping that. So we hope that it will be shipped very soon, but I cannot say any dates. But we have, we would not stand here if we would, let it go.
It says already recording.
Sorry?
It says already recording. Exactly. So from our side, I hope we did our homework. For the Alexa S60, for the LF, for the Mini, and for the 65. This workload should work. No matter if you shoot ProRes or RAW, anything. It should work for all formats.
But this is a world production, so basically no production in practice has used this, we can say. So this is brand new. So if you have a production and you are and you want to use this workflow, then I think I can speak for FilmLight, please, probably also for ARRI. Contact us directly. Our support channels are well known, and we will do our best to support the first project. We want this really because it makes a lot of sense. We hope. And easy the life of DITs and also post-production, and keep everything open and flexible from start to the end.
And no work at all. Everything we'll be doing in terms of grading is indefinite.
I just have two questions. In regards to this whole process, let's say you have an ear-set or an offset lab, either your own that's with the production or with the facility partner, and they're going to be refining the looks that were created on set, matching in second unit or other photography. And so the DIT DOP looks from set need to get refined and finalized. Do you envision that there will be a part of this process where this metadata that's recorded into the raw files as header information can be modified and then reinserted so that the refined look goes forward? Love to hear about some of that, because there's a secondary set of hands that go on to the color. There could even be a third set of hands that go on before the final color, and that is during the offline editing process. So do you envision that there might be an opportunity during the offline to make modifications and then have the metadata carry it forward to the final grading process? And then the B part of the question is, what about for visual effects, where we're exporting those RAWs with baked reference deliverables, or baked reference transcodes, and exporting that out to a loop through visual effects partners? How will they deal with this situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we also discussed about open ProRes frameworks and others to see what you can do. I believe it will be tricky to version VLGs inside of a QuickTime file, because you copy that file, but then maybe you restore during final grading the real data from LTO, and this is a different set, and then you need to version media files. I think that there are practical limitations in versioning the file within a camera file. Maybe, we have discussions about this, but I think once you're in post, then there are better solutions to manage those files.
I think I know what you mean. We have to update somehow the header. The problem is you don't want to update the header original files. So it's always dangerous. If something happens, you destroy your files. So it's always better than you do it a copy, what means you need everything in the whole time.
But you can move the DLG around from one to the other.
The idea is, you know, what we have is called the RE metadata bridge, which we gave to vendors. When you say you have a raw file, you want to export in OpenXR, we tell you how to map the original metadata into the exported form. And there should be also something that you map from raw into ProRes. That the ProRes look like a camera file. You know, like we shoot it and we record it with a mini. So the idea is, this is something what we should bring into these places like that for the daily workflow. So you get the original file from the camera, then you do the dailies, and then we have to do some modification because they do something not correctly. So we do some tweaks, and we render out quick times for the editing. But in this file, we have a second version of the header. So we did some tweaks, and this goes then to the editor. And then you have one chance, you know, to the daily stuff that you can update. So I think then we have, so the files look like the original file, it's just an update.
But then you have some.
This is something that we should have tried.
But once you are in daylight or baselight, you have a database
Yes.
of looks. So basically the baselight scene, which basically you have versioning, undo, history, all of that additional features. Yeah, so I think that for editorial, what you have described, this would be a suitable workflow. But then when you load the raw files in Final Post, and you have done already the dailies with daylight, then what you would do is you would say, okay, I get the grades from that instead of exactly from the database. And it's really just for us, it's really getting for every shot the correct file into our database. And once it's there, it could be in the cloud, it could be anywhere. It's that's then easy. But logging is on-set logging is really the painful thing. Sometimes you don't get the timecode, you don't get the SDI, something that you only need a network connection. We're also looking, and I'm not sure if we haven't tested this yet, but what we would like to do is that when what you can do in the camera is you can basically select, I think somewhere, another look. Where is this? Is this here? Double click. Edit. Look. So basically, we can basically also load the other looks which were previously stored. So basically, you could use a PreLight to load up 10 or 20 looks, and then you can go with a second unit without any connection to PreLight, and basically go and choose the look, shoot, and then without any logging, the camera could store the VOG inside of. This is not working at the moment, not fully tested, but this is what we really want to do, so that in case where you have a second unit and you just in the morning you just load the standard show looks into the camera, and the camera will store not only the LAB on-set visualization, but also the VLG file, and then this travels back from second unit into set.
You can load looks to the camera when you want to have on the shoulder when there's no connection, and you also can connect more cameras with the PreLight. So if you have a set of 3 cameras and you have bring the look files to the cameras, you can do it also with that.
And do you imagine this database that's maybe in the cloud that visual effects partners would have access to this look database as well?
Yeah, this is what we are working on.
And maybe what also is interesting for us, you know, when you're talking about visual effects stuff, so the way you have to export OpenXR files, and you want that they have an idea about the look that they start looking at. And there's also, you know, I think already integrated the metadata bridge for the OpenXR export. So we don't have a solution how to get the color information, but if we see that the demand that you say, I would like to have the VLG files in the header, it should be not a big issue, you know, that we can export OpenXR files with this information, and then it goes to the visual text platform or 3D LUT or something. We don't have a solution for that right now, but nobody would do it asking for that. But when we see the demand, then we can find a solution to do that.
Good questions. There's some good questions over there, yeah?
It's probably a good question. Remind me again, the way the cap works is the grade has to be created before you hit record. As soon as you do, it gets attached to the file header, or does it get attached to the file header when the clip wraps?
it has to send to the camera before starting recording.
Could you work on a way in a software patch of having it being at the end? Or at least having it open so that when it closes, you can be prompted inside PreLight asking, do you want to use the settings we had at the start or the end? Because we are often under the gun when we're live grading, especially with 2 or 3 cameras at the same time. DP will change his mind throughout the shot, which means that our grade that we have created is incorrect before we start to roll.
Yeah, I think in PreLight, if you capture the VLGs in PreLight, we write the VLG when the shot is closed.
You know, the problem is we don't want to press the camera with recording. You know, if recording is failing because we have some connection, then we are bored. They don't want to allow to do that.
Because that's one of the, we run into that a lot.
Yeah, I know. So I think the only thing how to fix this would be, you know, when we copy the material from the capture program to transfer that, there's an option that you can, you know.
Yeah, we can modify after the fact, but then we're sort of getting away from the whole idea of
Yeah, I know, but
doing it in
something
PreLight
that
and
we really-
trying to speed up the dailies of putting
I
it into the
understand
camera
that.
in advance.
It's something where you have to be very careful, you know.
The other thing, follow up for FilmLight side is, talked about using the area web GUI to access LUTs we've already got and sending them. But what happens a lot of times too is when we're live grading, we turn around, things have changed, come back from lunch, DP changes his mind. All of our grades we've made on the master setup, maybe the first close-up, no longer likes. They want them the other way. So now the grades that we've done on 52 Bravo and Charlie are, oh look, we got to redo 50 and 50 Apple. Is there a way we could use the program while the card's still in the camera, let's say, to access previous clips and send new metadata to the file headers of the prior clips? Complicated stuff, guys, but if you can make this happen, this is what we need because this is what speeds things up. Otherwise, I'm sending grades to the post guys, and half the grades are inaccurate.
Yeah, this is the discussion we needing to have.
I'd have to export my CDLs anyways and tell them, hey, sorry, ignore the file headers on clips 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. And that's why I can't really use that concept.
That's going to make a mess for VFX folks too.
Yep.
Good point, yeah. It's definitely stuff we need to work on.
There's a way you can, because that's a neat feature, especially like you say from a splinter or second unit perspective, that we can put our grades into the camera. They don't have to be activated, but they can be there stored.
Yeah.
And then when we send the camera off, we make it under the set part. Because I've done that a lot. I've set up ALF tubes and left it on as a display LUT to get the light from. But if the mag is still in the body and we're actively working, if we can go back to resetting associated grades to file headers.
Yeah, I think we understood the problem space. We need to discuss this. That makes a lot of sense.
I know it's a lot of code writing.
No, it's
a problem that I think if we can find a solution, it'll complete what they're trying to do here.
I understood you correctly. You want to update the look file.
I think we need to look on the time.
After it's already gone.
Recording.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do it in the second step where you copy the stuff. You want to do it in the camera.
Exactly.
We have a second session. We need to maybe we can discuss this later in a smaller group because there's another question there. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I was just going to ask, the BLG metadata in the files, is that accessible in Avid? If you have additions in your Avid, will you be able to multipaste that?
Not yet. Not yet. But
Does Avid give you the hooks so you could do it?
Yeah. Actually, the Armor link gives us the hook to we could do this. Yeah.
And also it should work in Hebrew. So plugin works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I hand over to Andy because we have another really great presentation and I know time goes quite quickly. Sorry. And we I did Andy.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time.
So I'm going over to the post-production side. And I just want to show you some of the new features that we released recently, and they said 5.1 and also 2.1 that are, let's say, in the pipeline, not too far from finished. So in general, in the baseline, we're recommending our customers to work in a scene-referred, color-managed workflow like it's drafted here. And there's lots of things going on, and one of the main things is that the scene-referred graded data gets converted with the DRT, a display rendering transform, to the display that you're currently using on the flight. And we also created our own display rendering transform called TCAM, or PreLight CAM, and CAM stands for color appearance modeling. And for this workflow with the TCAM, we made another operator which is called PreLight SceneLooks, or PreLight SL, and both of them go hand in hand. And the reason for that is that, in our opinion, the technical conversions or color space conversions should be separated from the creative things going on. So in a classic DI workflow, what the people would use is, for example, a film print lookup table, because they really like the filmic look that it has. But if you're using a film print emulation, you're also having a color space conversion from a kind of log flavor to a display like P3 already baked in. So they are not separated, but these two things are intertwined. And in FilmLight's philosophy, or in our philosophy, we think like we want to separate these two processes. So that, basically, that's the idea of TCAM and PreLight SceneLooks. So TCAM takes care of the technical conversion and the color appearance modeling, so that you're getting a right-looking image. And the PreLight SceneLooks are then applied additionally and optional to get, for example, a filmic color rendering. And the tricky thing about this is that we're doing everything, let's say, still remaining HDR. So we're doing everything in the scene-referred color space. And so you can even use, let's say now, a filmic color appearance or a color rendition on your projects that you're outputting to 1000 nits, 4000 nits, and 709, and so on. And you don't need, let's say, different or any kind of hacks or workarounds to reuse your old lookup tables. So here, for example, we have a shot that's right now just, let's say, that's coming from an Alexa and going through the TCAM DRT, and you can see, let's say, there are lots of bright and saturated colors in it, this bright greens and yellows. And let's say to get I would say like a more cinematic version or more filmic version of that shot, usually people would like to get a film print rendition on it. And so now I activated here on in my stack, just let's say, one of these new scene looks, the one called generic film, which is based on real print stocks that we measured, and you can instantly see that, let's say, these bright and saturated colors are getting toned down much nicer and getting you more to, let's say, kind of pastel palette. We also have one which we call Japanese film, which is a little bit more desaturated in the highlights, as you can see, also a little bit colder in the shadows. One is called earthy film, that's, let's say, a very, let's say, like earth tones version, maybe more intended for drama. And these are all, let's say, in the 100 category, C, 100, and 1, 2, 3. And also we have the 200 category. Right now there's only one look, and these looks are based on formulas. So let's say in this case the PreLight Classic scene look is not as, say, as filmic as the other ones, because this one is, let's say, just doing a formula-based pleasing our preferred color reproduction of the shot. I can just, let's say, also turn that one on and off, so that's off and on, and you can see that it's not changing too much, but it still gives, let's say, a little bit nicer rendition of the whole. Then we are, these are, let's say, very similar to classic workflows that we use. So, for example, the PreLight Classic is very similar to a camera manufacturer lookup table, and that's, let's say, more this idea. And these ones, the first three, are more based on classic DI film print emulation workflow. But we also put some, let's say, more interesting and definitely more looky, I could say, versions into the software. So, for example, here we can do colorblind simulation, like that one of our cone receptors are not working, and you can see it's definitely giving some really crazy things on that shot. But for example, if you're doing the colorblind S, it's a kind of, let's say, interesting look going from here to here. Usually if you would do something like this in with color grading operators, often they would see very noisy results. In this case, you can see it's, let's say, quite stable. And let's go over to this shot here. I'll just take a look. So let's say that's the generic film. You can see, for example, here the skin tones are separated much nicer from the background. Maybe let's go full screen. Also, the strong magenta on the outside in the background is toned down, and that's the Japanese film. And in this one, we can also see, let's say, some interesting results. For example, here again with these colorblind versions, here changing mostly just the background color completely, or in this case, going to, let's say, to a very more monochromatic color palette. And as you can see, that's also, I mean, here we have, let's say, a little bit noise in the background, but giving very interesting things. And one of the coolest things I, as a colorist, like about these new scene looks is you have a slider around here, so you can, say, fade them down, you can fade them in. So you have a very precise control, and you can even you can use them, combine them with secondaries. So you can say, like, I only want to use for the highlights this kind of look, and for the shadow something else. And let's say the possibilities, I could say, are, let's say, very unlimited. One last thing I want to show what these TrueLight scene looks is, for example, this shot, because there's also one look inside. It's called sodium high pressure lamp. And basically what it does is it simulates the lighting of the scene with a sodium lamp. And it only works, we realized, on shots that are, let's say, reasonably also lit with the sodium lamp. So for a daylight shot it will look, let's say, probably way too orange. But on this one here, for example, we could say, like, okay, maybe the DP simulated a moonlight here, and it's a little bit too strong compared to the, let's say, sodium light here in the background. So let's pull it on, and the nice thing is, again, you can fade it down, so you can have you will have a very precise control of how much, let's say, of this sodium look that you want. Maybe you want to still have a little bit separation for the skin tones. So, heading over to next feature. So we reworked our 3D keyer, the D key. So the problem there is that usually the keyers were optimized for, let's say, video or XML9 color spaces when they were made, but today we're mostly grading white gamut color spaces like Alexa log C white gamut, for example. And then then colorists often missing, let's say, the precision in the key, very narrow things. So in this case, I made a very small pick there on the skin tone of the lady, and softness is not going with it. And so now you can see that we can really key out very narrow color ranges, even in this, let's say, very evenly looking skin tone, and also look at how smooth the keying is behaving when I'm smoothing that little bit out, and we're not using any blurring yet on the key. So that's a really, for me, I think for many colorists that have to key a lot and have to be very precise about it, change. I think let's also do it here, and you can also see it, say, having a very nice response, and not too noisy, and so on. Next thing, texture highlights. That's a tool specifically intended for HDR color grading, but you can also use it in SDR. So here we see, let's say, the original, or let's say the untreated image on the left, and there we see that we have a really strong clipped highlight, also some, let's say, gamut clipping artifacts here around the edges that are a little bit cyan or turquoise. Also here below I have put a, let's say, waveform, Luma waveform representation. Here we can see really it's cut off. And what we also realized is that once you solve all the color issues you're having with HDR, let's say a color managed workflow, then the spatial things in the image become, let's say, more present to you. And then that's also one thing that many filmmakers don't like about HDR, these super sharp highlights and drawing the attention away from faces and so on. And so that's a thing that we definitely did want to tackle, and that's why that's the texture highlight tool before that we developed. And so basically, I just put it here on the shot, and then now I'm just raising, let's say, the amount up, and say that's down and up, and you can see how it adds a little bit softness to the highlight, and also you could see on the, let's say, previous slide that it, even if you're looking at it from a, let's say, signal perspective, it's really kind of, let's say, trying to heal signal up there. And visually we have very good responses to that one, especially, let's say, from filmmakers that were previously, let's say, more reserved about posting in HDR and so on. The same technology as in texture highlight is in the tool boost range. That one I really can't demo here because boost range is intended for doing up conversions from SDR to HDR, because then we have the same problem. We have, for example, a 709 master, and we want to get it, or maybe just a few shots, we want to get them into an HDR project. Usually we're boosting up, there are a lot of artifacts in the highlights, maybe the source was already compressed. It doesn't look too nice, and would demand lots of maybe manual work of the colorist, if it's even possible to save. And with the boost range tool, we'll also do let's say, we'll try to do a more robust and maybe more faithful up conversion to HDR. And if you're interested in that one, just visit us at our booth. We have lots of HDR displays and can demo that. Next new feature is called client view. That's let's say live. I mean, Daniela talked about the web server now. Let's say also PreLight can be a web server, not only cameras. And it's intended for large productions, maybe with lots of visual effect shots. You can hand the clients or all people involved in the suite laptop or iPad or phone, and they can access then live the metadata and a thumbnail of the current shot that's on screen, so you don't have to ask answer many more questions as a colorist. Is this the final visual effects version, or is this temporary, and is this A or B camera, and so on. So you can see that's already inside there, and that's also already available. The trackers got improved also a little bit more. Say the area tracker and the area perspective tracker to deal better with non-planar motion, and it's a very technical description. And the key point of takeaways is that we try to optimize them a little bit more, that they work even better on faces. So let's do it with the shape overlay. So let's say so I put them here, or maybe I'll just, because of the time, I'll just jump to the next shot. So this one is usually a little bit tricky because we have snow in the shot, and also the hair moving into the face of the actress, and she's also, let's say, getting some breathing, some out of your mouth. And usually on shots like this, sometimes the tracking fail. Recently I was not perfect, we had to add 1 or 2 keyframes, and now that one is much better. Let's try and do a little bit more speed. So we added a few more blend modes. I guess it's in total 9 of them: linear burn, darker color, lighter color, linear light, FilmLight, hard mix, exclusion, and divide. So here I have put pointers to them. So basically what we are having now is, let's say, all the blend modes that you know, for example, from Photoshop are now available in PreLight. Also we changed a few ones like subtract to work out exactly as in Photoshop because of many client requests like that. One interesting feature, if you're dealing often with computer-generated images, is called cryptomats, and that's a very fancy name. What does it do? Basically, these are mats for objects or object IDs coming from a 3D renderer, and I guess most of the common 3D renderers like Arnold, Maya, V-Ray, and I can't name them all right now, already supporting it with, I guess, sometimes additional plugins. And one of the major advantages of these cryptomats is, apart from the nice user experience in PreLight I can show you in a second, is that they're anti-aliased. So if you're doing really heavy corrections on a shot, then the mat will stay more robust. And so how does that work here? I have a 3D render of a car. I'm just adding a layer, adding a mat XYZ tool, and I'm just switching that one to cryptomat. And inside the EXR files I'm currently using, there are now 2 mats inside, and that's actually all I need to do. And now I can start clicking here on the image. And what did happen? Based, I've already selected that part of the car to be matted, or here and there. And let's turn that very greenish overlay off. So let's do a correction of maybe, let's bring our stuff 2 stops down and tint them, let's say, a little bit more reddish. So maybe. And now, let's say, as a colorist, I can now, let's say, simply just click on the areas, or I could even combine several things just by pressing Control, for example, here that one, and that one is, let's say, still missing. And that's a very handy thing if you're working a lot, let's say, with computer-generated images. Then another thing, panorama view. So we now have support for 360 video inside PreLight. And I will just, because this demands a special working format that has a panoramic projection inside to work, I'm switching over to another scene where I have this shot inside. So the main thing that we're having is we're putting these so-called lat-long images to the timeline and defining our working format. That this is a lat-long projection, and as soon as we did this, we will also have in our cursor now a panorama button available, so I can just click this and then I can start to zoom around inside this panorama shot and check my grade out, let's say even on a normal display without a VR headset, how it looks. And about color correction, I mean, usually you would apply all your, let's say, primary color corrections. Like here I added, let's say, some more sunny feel into it. On the lat-long image, and also, for example, a key for a shape for the sky, you would do just like this. But what about corrections that need maybe tracking or just some localized shapes? These are very tricky to apply on a lat-long image, because you can see it's really distorted here on the bottom. And for that, we have something which we call a panorama sandwich. So basically, we made a macro here in the base that you can just add a smart panorama. And what it will do, I mean, I'm just deleting this one because I already have one over here. As you can see, then you have a beginning panorama and an end panorama strip. And in the beginning panorama, you can then define and keyframe your field of view. So what are you currently looking at? Then you can add a shape inside, you can track that shape. And that, in this case, I just, let's say, put some keyframes to follow these people and to give them, let's say, a little bit more contrast, I guess, to draw maybe the attention of the viewer to that area. But then inside this panorama sandwich, you can then animate the camera and do localized corrections, even including tracking on your 360 videos. Going back to the last thing, which is called PreLight 3D. This is also again for computer-generated images. So now we have a realistic relighter inside of PreLight. And better than showing the slide, it's probably just doing it live here on the shot. So now here we have an EXR, and what we need for the relighter is a normals pass and a raw XYZ pass coming out of the 3D renderer. And we also made a smart macro. Sorry, I guess I touched something here on the X in the middle. The XR. That's not my way. So I just added a smart macro for PreLight 3D, but you then have to do next, because 3D scenes are often very different in scale. We have to deal with a really broad scale from very small values to very high values. So we're just drawing a line somewhere in the image of the key feature that you basically set into 1. In the relighter, so that, let's say, the lighting generally behaves more realistic, and then we can start, let's say, then split on the image and add, let's say, new lights to that. And let's say you can even, for example, let's put that point light here. We have a point line, this point light, and area light. And the nice thing in PreLight, you can then, let's say, change the position of the light also with the trackball controls on your blackboard surface or your slate, which is a really convenient way to do that. And And sometimes when you're doing maybe a relight like this, you will probably not completely relight the scene in a completely different direction. What typical application I could see is maybe for tabletop shots or pack shots, that you have a, let's say, CGI product in it. You maybe want to add some light reflections there. Then you can also click on the shift on the image, and it will create a light reflect. It will position the light that way that where you're clicking, it will add a light reflection. And obviously, you can also, let's say, animate this. Yeah, let's say without shift, it will just, let's say, the light first there as a default is enormous, and you can further refine that. So, I mean, there are many much more new features. I don't want to go through all of them. Maybe just pick two, and they're working on working on IMF support and export in PreLight. Let's say an IMF compliant JPEG 2000 export is, let's say, I would say finished and just let's say in QC, so it will be hopefully in the final product soon, and we're also continuing in that direction. And maybe another thing is for the huge production, we have lots of feedback from the big studios using PreLight that they need a strip blocking. So that's also what we're doing now. So you can say in the timeline after you're done with the grade, you can lock certain strips or all of them to not be accidentally changed later in the grading. So. That's about these things. If you want to see anything more, let's say, about this in action or more details about it, visit us.
So thanks for the time. If you have any questions, we are around here for another 5 minutes.